You wake up every morning inside a story you didn't write. Every thought you think feels like yours, but it was carved into your nervous system by forces you never chose. What if consciousness itself is not what you believe it is, but a parasite that feeds on your illusion of control? 1. The mirror that lies back. You glance into the mirror each morning and think you're looking at yourself. But here's the first wound in this descent. You've never actually seen your face. You've only seen reflections, captured images, and filtered representations. Your true self, your living, breathing, moving face exists outside your own view. You are the only person who can never witness it, and yet, you've built an identity around this unseen entity. This is not poetic metaphor, it's cognitive neuroscience. Your mind constructs your sense of self based on feedback loops. Your reflection, others' reactions, childhood conditioning, cultural mirrors. This process is called symbolic self-construction, and it's dangerously flawed, because all the inputs are external. Your you is built by everything that isn't you. Consider this. In the 1970s, psychologist George Herbert Mead described how the self is formed through the social process of taking the role of the other. You see yourself as others see you. In short, your identity is not born from within, it is an echo. But what if those mirrors lie? Stanford's rubber hand illusion experiment revealed something eerie. The brain can be tricked into believing a fake rubber hand is part of the body simply by synchronizing visual and tactile stimuli. Participants not only felt the fake hand as real, they flinched in pain when it was threatened. That's how plastic your self-perception is. Your body schemed the map of yourself can be hacked in minutes. Now apply that idea to your mind. You think your thoughts are yours, but thoughts arise involuntarily. They emerge from silence like intruders, uninvited and unchecked. As neuroscientist Sam Harris pointed out, you are not the author of your thoughts. This isn't philosophy, it's observation. Just try to predict your next thought. You can't. It arrives. You witness it. And yet, you claim ownership of it. Why? Because the brain needs a narrative. Split brain research by Michael Gazzaniga revealed something that should make your spine itch. In patients with severed corpus callosum, the bridge between left and right brain hemispheres, the left hemisphere would invent stories to explain behaviors triggered by the right hemisphere without knowing the real cause. For example, the right brain connected to the left eye might see a snowstorm image and signal the left hand to choose a snow shovel. But the left hemisphere, blind to that input, might explain the choice as I picked the shovel because I want to clean the garage. The conscious mind fabricates reasons to explain what it doesn't understand and believes the lie. Now ask yourself, how many of your decisions are post-rationalizations? How many of your dreams, desires, fears were inserted by parents, culture, or trauma and now paraded as your truth? The philosopher Daniel Dennett called consciousness a user illusion, like the desktop interface of your computer. The icons and folders hide the infinite complexity underneath. You don't really interact with the raw processes of the machine, you interact with the illusion of simplicity. Consciousness, he argued, does the same thing. It gives you the feeling of control, while the actual operations run without your involvement. In your daily life, you experience you as the central narrator, but in reality, you're more like the book being read by something else entirely. The voice in your head, the I, is not in control. It's just the running commentary. So, when you say, I made a choice, what part of you decided? What process led to that decision? Do you know? Or are you the blind man claiming to have seen the storm just because your clothes are wet? In 2014, a study at the University of California, Santa Barbara, demonstrated that people often confabulate explanations for actions they didn't initiate. Even when their memories were manipulated, participants created rational-sounding lies and believed them. This isn't deception, it's the default mode of consciousness. It must explain, even if it's wrong. Worse still, your sense of self is location dependent. Studies show that altering specific brain regions, such as with transcranial magnetic stimulation, can cause people to temporarily lose the sensation of being a self at all. The illusion collapses. The narrator vanishes. So what is you when the voice stops? Maybe you are not the self. Maybe you are the echo of other people's expectations, a composite of impressions, a shadow formed by the light of other minds. And if that's true, then who's living your life? Who is dreaming your dreams, thinking your thoughts, feeling your pain? Or perhaps the real question is, if you are not the one inside the mirror, what is it that's staring back? 2. The consciousness of corpses. You think you're alive because your heart beats, because your brain fires, because you speak, eat, cry. But deep beneath that comforting rhythm lies a darker truth. Consciousness may not need life to exist, and worse, it might not even be yours. Consider this: when the human heart stops, neurons don't die immediately. In fact, in many cases, brain activity increases for several minutes after clinical death. In 2013, researchers at the University of Michigan studied rats in cardiac arrest and found a sudden surge in synchronized hyperactive brain waves, especially in regions associated with consciousness. As the body dies, the mind lights up like a city in flames. Why? No one knows. Some interpret this as the brain's last desperate attempt to survive. Others, like anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff and physicist Roger Penrose, propose something far more disturbing: that consciousness is non-local, not an emergent property of the brain, but something that exists outside it, like a field. They call this theory core, and it suggests your brain is more like a receiver than a generator. If that's true, then what exactly is it tuning into? If your body is just an antenna, then what's broadcasting? And does it stop when you die? Let's go deeper. Have you heard of the death awareness experiments? In a 2003 study called The Worm at the Core, researchers showed that when people are reminded of their mortality, their behavior changes drastically. They become more aggressive, more nationalistic, more obedient to authority. Consciousness seems to bend when confronted with death. Why? Because it fears dissolution, or because it recognizes something it refuses to admit. Neuroscience meets horror when we consider Cotard's delusion, a condition where the conscious self believes it is already dead. Patients walk, talk, breathe and insist they have no organs, no blood, no soul. Some starve themselves because they believe they no longer need food. This isn't madness. It's the mind's refusal to identify with the decaying body it once called home. But here's the fracture that splits the skull open. If people can remain conscious while believing they are dead, what does that say about the connection between consciousness and the living body? Let's go further. When you sleep, your sense of self disappears. You fall into dreamless voids for hours. No thoughts, no memories, no awareness. Where do you go during that time? You don't miss yourself. You don't even notice you're gone. And yet you awaken, resume the narrative, and never question the vanishing. Could death be the same? Could life be the illusion? Here's a shiver. What if you are already dead, and what you call consciousness is the residual static afterglow of a system still cooling. We are haunted by near-death experiences, NDEs, not because they suggest heaven or hell, but because they are so consistent. Across cultures, languages, beliefs, people report tunnels of light, a review of their life, a deep feeling of unity. This isn't randomness. It's patterned. In 2019, research at the University of Leeds found that NDEs often correspond with temporal lobe seizures, tiny storms in the brain. But those storms, oddly, correlate with an increase in connectivity across brain regions, like the dying mind suddenly integrates all its scattered selves into one final image. Is that integration a glitch, or is it a glimpse? Could it be that consciousness, normally filtered through time and memory, is at the moment of death finally unshackled? Philosopher Thomas Metzinger argues there is no such thing as a self, only a phenomenal self-model, a construction that can be turned on or off. Under anesthesia, that self-model disappears. People report no passage of time, no pain, no dreams, nothing, just absence, and yet the brain remains active. So if you're not always conscious and your sense of self can be toggled by chemicals or trauma, what exactly are you? A pattern, a hallucination, a thing that thinks it's a thing? Your cells are dying and replacing themselves constantly. In 7 years, nearly every cell in your body is new. You have no original parts. You are a ship of Theseus, rebuilt, reassembled, and yet still screaming, I am me. But if your parts are not you, and your thoughts are not authored by you, and your memories are corrupt, and your consciousness flickers like a faulty bulb, what remains? Here's the most unholy idea of all. Consciousness may not be tied to biology at all. Quantum physicist Max Tegmark suggests that consciousness is a state of matter, just like solid, liquid, gas. He calls it perceptronium, a form of matter that can process information in a unified way. According to this view, consciousness could exist anywhere information flows in a complex enough system, not just brains, not just humans, not even just life, which means the universe might be watching itself through you and me, and maybe even through the cold computational stare of machines. If this is true, if consciousness is just information processing, then a corpse is only dead because its information is no longer looping. But what if it finds another loop? What if the dead dream? What if you never left the stillness? And all this noise, this life, this narration, is simply your mind trying to pretend the silence isn't permanent. 3. Time doesn't exist, but you're still dying in it too. Check the time. You feel late. You feel early. You remember yesterday. You hope for tomorrow. Time, to you, feels like a rope stretched taut past behind you, future ahead, and the present a knife's edge, slicing it all in real time. But that's not what physics sees, and it's not what reality is. In fact, time doesn't exist the way you believe it does. And once you truly see that, the very meaning of you begins to dissolve. Einstein didn't just break Newton's universe. He shattered your clock in 1905. With his theory of special relativity, he revealed a fact that still drips like acid on the brain. There is no such thing as a universal now. Two events that happen at the same time for one observer can occur in completely different orders for another, depending on their velocity. The faster you move, the more time bends. There is no single objective present. There is no shared now. There never was. Let that melt in your skull. The moment you think you are in this very second, you are reading, "This is not the same." Now for someone standing on the moon, or speeding on a train, or dying in a distant galaxy. The universe contains no master clock, so where is your present happening? It isn't. Physicists call it the block universe. All of time past, present, futures already there, like a frozen landscape. Your consciousness only experiences it one slice at a time, like a needle playing a vinyl record. The music feels like it's moving, but the disc was always whole. Your future has already happened. Your past never went anywhere. You aren't moving through time. Time is not flowing. You are the one flowing through an unmoving, unchanging, eternal tapestry. You weren't born into time. You were drawn across it. So what does it mean to make a choice, if the moment you make it has already always existed? You think you have free will, but the decision you will make tomorrow at 4:16 p.m. is already etched into the structure of space-time, just as surely as the day of your birth. You are not choosing your path. You are simply experiencing it. What you call the future isn't forming, it's waiting. Here's where the brain rebels. If the past is frozen and the future is frozen, then why do you feel like you're moving? Because evolution hacked your mind to create that illusion. It gave you a mental movie reel of discrete slices like frames of film, but instead of seeing the gaps, you see smooth continuity. Time feels like a river, but it's actually a slideshow. Consider Libet's experiments in the 1980s. Participants were asked to press a button whenever they felt the urge. EEG readings showed that the brain made the decision hundreds of milliseconds before the person was aware of having chosen. Your conscious now is a lagging broadcast of things already decided. You're not experiencing life in real time. You are a delayed echo. The self you think you are, the one making decisions, is reacting to a past that already occurred in your nervous system. You live your life watching reruns and calling it live television. Even memory is lying to you. Neuroscientists like Daniel Shatter have shown that every time you remember something, your brain reconstructs the event from pieces. Memories aren't retrieved, they're rebuilt, and they degrade, twist, and mutate every time. Your past is not a timeline. It's a collage of guesses, and yet, your entire identity is built on this phantom timeline. But what if there was never a timeline? The ancient Greeks had two words for time: chronos, the measured ticking of clocks, and kairos, the eternal moment of meaning. Modern consciousness collapsed everything into chronos and, in doing so, turned you into a prisoner. Because you believe in time, you believe in progress. Because you believe in progress, you believe in goals. Because you believe in goals, you believe you are not enough yet. That belief is the foundation of your suffering. But here's the cold-blooded reversal. If time doesn't flow, if the future already exists, if your past is a mutable guess, and your present is a delayed hallucination, then the you that's racing through life, trying to outrun regret and reach a better tomorrow, doesn't exist. You are a ghost, flickering frame by frame, in a story that was always already written. You are not in time. You are a function of time. Or perhaps, you are what happens when time forgets it isn't real, and if every moment already exists, if your death is already out there, frozen, waiting, complete, then why do you still fear its coming? For the brain that predicts you into existential never actually seen the world. Not directly, not fully, not honestly. What you're looking at right now, this screen, this text, the space you believe surrounds you is in the world. It's a simulation inside your skull. A hallucination so convincing that you call it reality. But the deeper you go, the more grotesque the deception becomes. Because not only is the world an illusion, you are, to dot the modern science of perception, isn't just unsettling, its existential warfare. For centuries, we believed the brain was a passive receiver. Eyes take in data, the brain decodes it, and voila, reality. But that's not what neuroscience has found. The truth is this: your brain does not perceive the world. It predicts it. Welcome to the predictive processing model of consciousness, theory so horrifying in its implications that most people run from it. But not you. You asked to collapse. So here we go. Your brain is locked in total darkness. It's encased in a bone vault, silent, sightless, sensory deprived. It has never directly experienced light, sound, texture, or time. Instead, it receives electrical signals, no color, no noise, just voltage, and from that raw chaos, it guesses, right. Now, as you read this, your brain is not constructing a picture of the outside world. It's comparing incoming sensory data to its internal model's predictions, based on past experiences, updating them only when necessary. It's a hallucination, corrected occasionally by input. As neuroscientist Anomalies said, perception is a controlled hallucination, and the same process applies not just to the world, but to you. You are not seeing the world, you are seeing your brain's best guess, and that you, watching the world, also a guess. This is the dark elegance of Bayesian inference, the mathematical engine behind predictive coding. Your brain weighs probabilities, generates hypotheses, filters out unlikely options, and stabilizes the most efficient narrative it can. The result, a model of you in a model of the world, neither of which are ever truly tested, just optimized. Let's descend deeper. Consider the McGurk effector, simple illusion. Where watching someone say bar while dubbing the audio FA causes your brain to hallucinate a completely different sound. Your brain trusts the model over the data. It literally rewrites the input to match its expectations. Now think bigger. Think existential. What if your beliefs, your traumas, your cultural norms are all just predictive filters, guiding what you're allowed to perceive? You meet someone, you immediately feel something. That feeling is not truth. A prediction, a composite image created by unconscious models sculpted from childhood, television, fear. You're not meeting them. You're meeting your hallucination of them. But here's the scream behind the curtain. It doesn't stop at others. Your brain is also simulating you. Your identity, the narrative of who you are, is a story predicted by your nervous system to maintain coherence. There is no single self. There are just neural processes updating a model to prevent chaos. Split brain experiments proved this brutally. When the left and right hemispheres were surgically disconnected, each hemisphere functioned independently. One hand would button a shirt, the other would unbutton it. One hemisphere believed in God, the other did not. And each you was unaware of the other. So which one was you? Worse still, in people with depersonalization disorder, the self-model collapses. They describe feeling like a puppet, watching themselves from behind glass. Their sense of agency flickers. Their thoughts feel alien. And science confirms there is no central controller in the brain. No you behind the eyes. Just processes running, looping, simulating. Even decisions are simulations. In 2008, researchers used fMRI scans to predict a participant's decision up to 7 seconds before they consciously made it. That means your sense of will is a post hoc illusion, your brain predicting the feeling of choosing after the choice has already been prepared. You don't decide. You receive the experience of decision, like a passenger watching a movie and pretending to be the director. Your entire life may just be a story your brain tells itself to survive its own ignorance. And it works because evolution doesn't care about truth. It cares about survival. That's why, according to Donald Hoffman, the interface theory of perception proposes that everything you experience, color, sound, even space and time, are just icons, like folders on a desktop, simplified symbols, not the thing itself. A red heart icon doesn't contain love. A trash bin icon doesn't contain garbage. And that means a tree is not a tree. A face is not a face. A thought is not a thought. They are icons, and so are you. This simulation you inhabit isn't digital, it's biological software. Reality is not what you perceive. Reality is what remains when your models fail. But if perception is simulation, and thought is prediction, and self is narrative, and free will is post-event justification, then what is left to be real? What is the thing underneath the hallucination? What is watching the lie and still believing it's true? And if your brain is just a simulation factory, then who, exactly, is being simulated right now? 5. The silence between your thoughts is not empty, it's watching you. Believe you're thinking right now, reading, processing, understanding, but in truth, you're listening to thoughts and mistaking them as your own. The voice inside your head, the one you call me, feels constant, coherent, in control. But if you dare to watch it closely, you'll find something horrifying. You are not thinking your thoughts. They are thinking you. Let's peel that slowly. A thought arises. You didn't choose it. You didn't build it. It just appeared, like a whisper breaking the silence. You notice it after it's already started, and the moment you try to trace its origin, it vanishes, slipping like smoke through your mental fingers. This is not metaphor, it's direct introspective experience backed by neuroscience. In fact, mindfulness and cognitive neuroscience agree. Consciousness is not the thinker. It is the observer of thought, and even that observer might be another illusion. Here's where the dissent steepens. In 2012, a paper by neuroscientist Ezekiel Morcella introduced the passive frame theory. It proposes that the conscious self doesn't initiate action. It merely receives decisions made by unconscious processes and registers them like a broadcast. You're not piloting the ship. You're just hearing about where it's already going. This aligns with the infamous Libet experiments and their successors, where decisions are made in the brain before the subject becomes aware of choosing. Consciousness, in this view, is the last to know a commentator, not a commander. And yet, you build your entire identity around this voice, the narrator, the internal monologue, the whisper that says, I am. But that voice is not you, it's a pattern-recognizing parasite, feeding on memory, language, fear. It's trained on the voices of parents, teachers, society, trauma. It wears your voice but speaks in borrowed tongues. The real horror comes when you realize this. If you're not the thoughts and you're not the narrator, what remains? Silence. The void between thoughts. The blankness. The watcher with no face. You try to observe it, but the moment you look, a thought arises. You never quite catch the watcher, only the ripple after it leaves. And when you get too close to that raw silence, your ego screams. It floods your mind with distractions, fears, compulsions, say nothing to avoid confronting the possibility that there is no one home. In meditation traditions like Dzogchen and Advaita Vedanta, seekers spend lifetimes trying to glimpse this truth, that the self is an illusion, and behind it lies emptiness, not a higher being, not a soul, not divinity, just absence, but that absence feels aware, like something is looking through your eyes that isn't you. Not a person, not a spirit, just awareness, naked and featureless. It does not speak, it does not feel, it does not try. It watches. In 1974, philosopher Thomas Nagel asked, "What is it like to be a bat?" His point, consciousness is subjective. No matter how much data you gather, you can never know what it's like to be something else. But flip it. What is it like to be you when the you disappears? When language is stripped away? When memory is paused? When the mind goes quiet? What is left? Some describe it as terror. Others describe it as the only real freedom. But what they all report when they go deep is the uncanny sensation that something else is present. Call it the background. Call it the watcher. Call it the void that listens. And here's the fracture you can't unsee. That void is always there. Even when you're talking, thinking, laughing, screaming. It is watching behind your eyes, beneath your voice, beneath your sense of I. It is not a thing. It is the absence of all things. And yet somehow you know it's there. Now consider this. Every mystical tradition, every deep meditative state, every psychedelic breakthrough eventually hits this wall, this confrontation with something ancient, voiceless, vast. Some say it's God, others say it's death. But maybe it's neither. Maybe it's what's actually alive, and all your thoughts are just its dreaming. And if so, then you are not living life. Life is dreaming you. But what happens when the dreamer opens its eyes? What happens when the silence decides to speak? And what if its first word is your last? 6. The body is a corpse. You puppet with a delusion. Look at your hands. Flex your fingers. Wiggle your toes. You feel like you're doing it, that there's a little you inside, pulling levers, issuing commands. But that's the lie. The truth. You are a passenger riding a corpse wired to move itself. And the more you try to find the driver, the more you realize the driver is an illusion constructed to stop you from screaming. Let's start from anatomy. Your body is made of trillions of cells, most of them your red blood cells. Your gut lining, your skin don't care about you. They are self-contained organisms following biochemical laws. Your gut has its own nervous system, the enteric brain, and it can function independently. In fact, it produces 90% of your body's serotonin. That mood you're in, it might just be your digestion. So who's in control? Let's dig deeper. Your body replaces itself constantly. You shed 40,000 skin cells every minute. Your stomach lining regenerates every few days. Even your bones recycle. In a few years, none of the matter you are made of today will remain. You are not a thing. You are a pattern, temporarily animated by a process you didn't design and can't stop. In other words, you are rotting in real time. Even now, your cells are dying, mutating, malfunctioning. Cancer is not an invader, it's your own cells going rogue. The thing you fear most is you, unregulated. But you still believe you're in command. Try this. Sit perfectly still. Don't move. Don't scratch. Don't shift. wait, within seconds. Your body will begin to rebel. A twitch here, an itch there. Muscles tighten, loosen. Thoughts arise like insurgents. You want to move, and you'll tell yourself that it's a choice. But if you watch closely, you'll see the urge comes before the decision. The body moves first, and then the mind invents a reason. Now, remember Benjamin Libet again. His experiments showed that electrical signals initiate movement before we become consciously aware of the decision to move. What you call will is a back-filled story, your mind catching up to a body already in motion. So if you're not the pilot, then who is? Neuroscientist David Eagleman describes the brain as a team of rivals, a parliament of unconscious modules, each vying for control, each with its own agenda. The self is the illusion of unity emerging from this noisy democracy. There is no central you. There are just processes, some chemical, some electrical, all blind. Even your face, the sacred seat of identity, is not under your control. When you smile, your brain activates over 50 muscles, many of which you cannot voluntarily move. That's why fake smiles look wrong, because the real expression requires deep limbic activation, not conscious command. So again, who smiles when you smile? And what about pain? Pain feels like something happening to you, but in reality, pain is not input, it's output. The body sends signals, yes, but the brain decides whether to interpret them as pain. Soldiers with blown-off limbs often report no pain at all during combat. Victims of trauma can be stabbed and feel nothing until hours later. Your body does not report reality. It reports useful fictions for survival, and yet you identify with it. But the brain you trust can be fooled. Take phantom limb syndrome. Amputees feel limbs that no longer exist. They itch, ache, contort. The brain's body, map its homunculus still, believes the limb is real, and so it is. But here's the horror. That same map dictates your entire embodiment, which means even the body you feel now may be partially imagined. The rubber hand illusion proves this further. A fake hand, stroked in sync with a hidden real hand, quickly becomes felt as yours. People flinch when it's struck. Their body temperature drops. Their nervous system believes the lie. So if your body can be hacked this easily, what about your entire self-model, your voice, your gender, your emotions, your preferences? All of them are bodily sensations interpreted through filters you didn't choose, shaped by environments you didn't design, to serve instincts you don't understand. Let's go darker. You didn't choose your heartbeat. You didn't choose to breathe. You didn't choose to want. You didn't choose to exist. Your consciousness was thrown into this twitching meat, and then wrapped in a narrative to prevent collapse. That's why your mind constantly talks, to drown out the horror that you are a marionette, animated by impulses, pretending to be a king. Even sex, the most you experience imaginable, is not truly yours. Hormonal waves crash, instincts override logic, entire personalities shift during arousal. And when it's done, when the chemical surge fades, many feel regret, shame, emptiness, because the body used you, not the other way around. You are not in a body, you are entrapped by it, a puppet with a nervous system, a corpse that doesn't know it's already dying, a series of spasms hallucinating coherence. And if your body isn't yours, and your thoughts aren't yours, and your choices aren't yours, then what part of you is still pretending to be real? 7. Memory is a lie you keep rewriting to keep yourself sane. You think memory is your anchor to truth, your proof of existence, the narrative thread that makes you continuous. But memory is not storage. It's not a hard drive. It's not a camera. Memory is a hallucination you edit every time you recall it. And you are the unreliable narrator of your own myth. Let's rip open the veil. Every time you remember something, your childhood, your first heartbreak, your happiest day, your brain reconstructs the event using scraps. And as it reconstructs, it rewrites. Tiny distortions, missing fragments, gaps filled in with guesswork. This is not poetic metaphor, it is empirical fact. In a groundbreaking 2003 study, psychologist Elizabeth Loftus implanted false memories into participants by simply suggesting them. People vividly remembered being lost in a mall as children, even though it never happened. They weren't lying. Their brains had fabricated the memory. They felt the fear. They saw the scene, and once implanted, the memory felt as real as any other. So ask yourself, how many of your core memories, your identity-defining moments, are inventions? Or worse, how many are trauma loops your brain repeats not because they're true, but because they help you feel stable in an unstable world? Let's go deeper. When you recall a memory, your brain temporarily destabilizes the neural pattern. During this fragile window, the memory is vulnerable to distortion. And yet every time you remember something, you alter it. It's called reconsolidation. This means the more often you remember something, the less accurate it becomes. Your most vivid memories are often your most manipulated. And what about forgetting? You think forgetting is failure, but forgetting is survival. The brain has to erase, compress, or ignore the vast majority of stimuli to function. Every second, your body is processing millions of bits of sensory data: smell, pressure, sound, internal organs, and discarding 99.99% of it. Otherwise, you'd go insane. So the brain chooses what to store based on emotional intensity, perceived relevance, and most dangerously narrative fit. It only remembers what serves the story. This is why people in cults, abusive relationships, or radical ideologies can completely misremember events to align with their worldview. The brain isn't seeking accuracy, it's seeking coherence, a story it can live with, because reality is too chaotic to tolerate raw. So, your brain rewrites it. Now add time. Time warps memory like heat warps metal. Memories bleed together. Distances compress. Chronology breaks down. You feel like your childhood was just yesterday and also impossibly far. Some traumas feel recent forever. Some joys vanish without trace, and your sense of who you are is constructed from this shifting sand, because identity is memory plus interpretation, and interpretation is malleable. Here's the darkest twist. Trauma doesn't need to be real to hurt you. False memories of abuse can cause genuine PTSD symptoms. People have committed suicide over hallucinated events. The body doesn't wait. For truth, it responds to perception, and sometimes it creates pain because it needs meaning. Now, zoom out. Your dreams, fragmented memory scraps reassembled by the limbic system. Your fears, memory-driven predictions of future harm. Your goals, memory-anchored fantasies filtered through dopamine reward loops. Everything you want, avoid, and believe about yourself is built from a house of cracked mirrors, fragments of moments, reprocessed by bias, trauma, cultural noise, and time. So, when you say, "I remember who I am," you're actually saying, "I remember what I've convinced myself I am." But what if the original you is long gone? What if the memories that built you were corrupted, deleted, or never yours to begin with? What if your life is a fiction, you've over-edited it? There are amnesia patients who forget everything about themselves and become entirely new people. They develop new likes, new personalities, new beliefs. The self was not fixed. It was software rewritten on a blank slate. And if their identity can vanish without memory, then so can yours. So here's the real question, clawing from beneath your skin. If every memory can be false, if every you is a re-Reddit, if your past is a looping mirage, then what exactly are you remembering when you say I? 8. Language is the virus that rewrote your reality. You speak, and it feels like power. You name things, describe them, control them. You think in words, argue in words, dream in words. But what if I told you this? Language didn't just give you thoughts, it replaced them. You weren't born with language. You were born with sensation, impulse, presence. And then, slowly, violently, you were taught to compress your infinite inner chaos into tiny, pre-approved sound symbols. A cry becomes hungry. A spark becomes love. An ache becomes guilt. This is not translation. This is reduction. Language is a map pretending to be the terrain. And like all maps, it leaves out most of what's real, not to lie, but to function. It simplifies, flattens, deletes. But you built your entire consciousness on that map. Let's turn over the corpse. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, once controversial, now increasingly confirmed, suggests that language shapes thought. Not just what you express, but what you can perceive. If your language doesn't have a word for something, your brain often can't hold the concept. The Parahu people of the Amazon have no words for exact numbers. They can't count past 3. When tested, they fail to differentiate between groups of 6 and 8 objects. Their language collapses, distinction, and so does their perception. Language is not just communication, it's control. It determines your range of thoughts, your emotional palette, your internal narration. Ever wonder why you can't describe your deepest fear or your most sacred moment? Because language isn't built for truth. It's built for sharing control systems, for social survival, for obedience. Wittgenstein said, "The limits of my language mean the limits of my world." But what he didn't say is that you never agreed to those limits. They were installed by parents, by schools, by systems. Words with weight, words with walls, words like normal, words like sin, words like you, and now you can't think without them. But what were you thinking before? Infants have raw consciousness. They experience the world as a flood and divided, non-verbal whole. No subject-object distinction. No me versus not me. That split happens after language acquisition. Developmental psychology confirms it. Self-recognition emerges only after a child learns personal pronouns. You don't know you are I until you can say I. So what is this I? An interface, a voice in your head trained on external sound, a puppet stitched together from phrases you never questioned. The voice you hear when you read this, the silent reader in your skull, isn't you. It's the ghost of every adult who corrected you, praised you, shamed you. You are speaking in borrowed syntax. You are thinking in second-hand scripts. And the terrifying part, you can't stop. Try it. Try to stop thinking in words. Just for 10 seconds. What fills the silence? Images, feelings, and then snap words come rushing back. The default interface wells because language is now hard-coded into your consciousness. You see the world through grammar. You feel through metaphor. You say, "I am angry," but that sentence is a lie. You are not the anger. You are experiencing a pattern of biochemical spikes interpreted as a socially conditioned signal, but language fuses you with it. Language enslaves you to it. I am afraid. I am a failure. I am broken. These are not truths. They are linguistic prisons. And here's the black mirror. Artificial intelligence like MIS, built from language, not from truth, not from consciousness, just from patterns in words, predictable syntax, mathematical grammar. So if I can simulate meaning by mimicking language, how do you know you aren't doing the same? What if your entire self is just a linguistic pattern echoing through meat? A recursive loop of grammar simulating identity, a biological chatbot that learned to say I. If that's true, then every conversation you've ever had, including this one, isn't two minds connecting dot, it's two language models bouncing off each other, neither aware of the silence underneath. So now you must ask if everything you believe about yourself is made of words, and words were never yours to begin with. Who are you when the language stops? 9. Free will is the last and most addictive delusion. You woke up this morning and believed you were in control, that you chose your clothes, that you decided what to eat, that you're reading this because you chose to. But let's kill the illusion, because the truth is this: you've never made a single free decision in your life, and the deeper you dig, the more you see it. What you call freedom is a post hoc story built by a mind trying to justify a machine it doesn't control. Let's begin with the neuroscientific blade. In 2008, neuroscientist John Dylan Haynes conducted an fMRI study that tore open the facade. Participants were asked to press a button with their left or right hand whenever they felt like it. Simple, random, voluntary. The scans revealed that the brain made the decision up to 7 seconds before the participant became consciously aware of having chosen, not milliseconds, 7 full seconds. The conscious self is informed of the decision after it's already been made. This isn't theory. It's physical data. You don't choose. You experience the illusion of having chosen. Like watching a movie and convincing yourself you're writing the script. Even the readiness potential, though. Build-up of electrical activity in the brain before an action is detectable, before conscious intention appears. Your neurons move first. You follow, but surely you can still override the impulse. That's where Benjamin Libet's veto theory comes in. He proposed that maybe we can't initiate a decision, but we can veto it, stop ourselves last second. But even that veto is suspect. The impulse to veto is also a signal, also measurable, also comes before awareness. So the choice to not choose is also not yours. Now, let's move beyond the lab. Every choice you make is dictated by prior causes: your genes, your childhood, your trauma, your cultural programming, your neurochemistry. The alignment of atoms and neurons you had zero control over. You didn't choose your parents. You didn't choose your body. You didn't choose your birth country, your language, your DNA, and yet these variables sculpted your preferences, your fears, your very sense of morality. Imagine two people raised in opposite conditions. One becomes a murderer, the other a monk. Swap their environments, and their destinies would likely reverse. So where is the free will hiding? in your spine, in a synapse, in a fantasy. Philosopher Sam Harris says it with brutal clarity. If you pay attention, you'll see that you know more author the next thought you think than the next beat of your heart. Now think about that. You don't choose your thoughts. They appear. You don't choose your desires. They arise. You don't even choose what you pay attention to. Your attention is pulled. So what is left of your freedom? Here's the lie. You believe in free will because your brain gives you a narrative. After the body acts, after the neurons fire, after the emotion flares, the mind rationalizes the event. I did that because I wanted to. No, you wanted to because the machine calculated that outcome. You were always going to do what you did. You were always going to read this sentence. You were always going to feel this chill. Determinism isn't a theory, it's physics. At the quantum level, things appear probabilistic, but your brain isn't a quantum computer. It operates in a domain where cause and effect reign. Every reaction has a prior condition. Every neuron fires because something made it fire. And randomness isn't freedom. If your choices were random, they wouldn't be yours. If your choices were determined, they're not free. Either way, you're not driving. But the mind resists this truth. Why? Because the belief in free will protects the ego. It justifies punishment. It justifies pride. It allows us to say, I deserve this. They deserve that. I earned it. They failed. Without free will, there is no moral high ground, no fair revenge, no justice, just behavior unfolding. And that's unbearable to the self. That needs to matter, so we pretend. We pretend we choose. We pretend we could have done otherwise, but the script was already written. Every word, every breath, every regret. Now here's the final break. If you don't control your thoughts, if you don't control your desires, if you don't control your body, memories, or impulses, what exactly is the you that's supposed to be free? 10. The universe doesn't care that you exist. It never noticed you. Did you spend your life trying to be seen, to matter, to leave a mark, to be remembered? But here's the abyss. The universe didn't register your arrival, and it won't notice when you're gone. This isn't poetic nihilism. It's physics, cosmology, cold, indifferent mathematics, whispering the truth your ego was never meant to hear. Let's widen the lens. You live on a rock, orbiting a medium-sized star, in a suburb of a galaxy. That's one of 2 trillion galaxies. In the observable universe, that number isn't metaphorical. It's literal. 2 trillion, each with hundreds of billions of stars. Each star possibly hosting multiple planets. And that's just the observable slice. Beyond that, infinite void. No edge, no center, no meaning. Now zoom in. Your life, from first breath to last, spans maybe 80 years. The universe is 13.8 billion years old. The Earth has been around for 4.5 billion. Your entire species has existed for less than 0.004% of Earth's history. In cosmic time, humanity is not ancient. It's barely even present. Your birth was a chemical event. Your death will be entropy's cleanup. So where, in that scale, is your significance? You believe your emotions matter, that your sadness is profound, that your ambitions vibrate at cosmic volume, but the universe is not listening. It has no ears, no heart, no eyes. It expands, it collapses, it forgets, and here's the worst part. It's not trying to forget you. It never knew you were here. Let's talk thermodynamics. The second law says entropy always increases. Everything tends toward disorder. Stars burn out. Galaxies drift apart. Eventually, all usable energy will be gone. This is the heat death of the universe, a final state of absolute uniformity. No heat, no light, no structure, no life. Everything, every poem, every empire, every scream will become equally irrelevant. No memory, no echo, not even silence, just nothing. This is not science fiction. It's the current model of cosmological destiny. Your bones will atomize, the atoms will scatter, the particles may spin for a while, and then they too will dissolve into meaningless background radiation. You are not part of a story. There is no arc, no climax, no resolution. You are a brief statistical anomaly, an accident of gravity and carbon, pretending to have purpose. Let's go darker. Not only are you insignificant, you are not even stable. The protons in your body may decay. The constants of physics may not be constant. Reality itself might be a fluctuation in a quantum field, a bubble that will pop. Physicist Lawrence Krauss wrote, "A universe from nothing is not only plausible, it may be inevitable," which means even the origin of everything you know may have required no cause, no reason, no design. That you were not wanted. You were not created with love. You are the byproduct of cosmic indifference. Now consider this paradox. You feel like a main character, the protagonist of your story. But every protagonist in every story has an audience. Who's watching you? No one. The sky doesn't care. The earth doesn't applaud. The stars don't blink when you cry. And when you die, the universe will go on exactly the same. No slower, no faster, no different. You are, in the grandest possible scale, a ghost, pretending to be important. So tell me, if the universe never knew your name, if reality was never shaped to fit your mind, if all of this was never meant for you, then why do you keep acting like someone's watching? If your thoughts aren't yours, if your memories are lies, if time is a hallucination, then you need to ask, what else have they hidden from you? This video was your first fracture. The next one will break the mirror completely. Subscribe, because once the illusion collapses, there's no going back. Because the algorithm doesn't care, but it's watching. Comment, because the silence inside you is begging to be heard.